Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new Ninjago video here on the channel. My name is TannerFishies. In today's video, we are going to be discussing something that Ninjago Dragons Rising could totally do for their Season 4 storyline, following the events seen in Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 2 and the ending of Episode 20. This idea involves the elemental power reservoirs that we talked about recently in a previous video, and the idea of the 15th anniversary of Ninjago. More on all of that momentarily. But first, before we get any further in today's video, I must issue a quick spoiler warning. This video will indeed contain spoilers for pretty much all of the leaked episodes of Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 2, especially the ending. So keep that in mind, spoilers are ahead. You have been warned. Now, with that being said, following Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 2 and the ending of Episode 20, all of the ninja and pretty much every other elemental master out there has been experiencing glitches in their elemental powers. Since half of the Source Dragon Council no longer is, well, on the council, the elemental masters across the merged lands are again experiencing glitches and problems. From what we've heard so far, this event does in fact impact every elemental power out there, even those whose source dragons are still very much on the council. However, due to some recent developments from Doc Wyatt, one of Ninjago's head writers, it does kind of sound like the elemental powers will have some type of way to return to the ninja and probably other elemental masters going into Dragons Rising Season 4. Because apparently there are items, various locations, just reservoirs in general out there scattered around the merged lands that actually do connect to elemental energy. Theoretically, if an elemental master who, say, did not have their powers were to stumble across one of these reservoirs, their power could actually come back to them in full. With that in mind, though, again, locations, that stuck with me. What kind of locations could we see in Dragons Rising Season 4 that could very well bring back the elemental powers of the ninja specifically? Well, I think it ultimately depends on, again, what these reservoirs are. Is there one for each elemental power, or is there one for each source dragon out there? That will determine, again, what locations, what items ultimately do come into the picture during Season 4. However, if there is indeed a reservoir for each elemental power out there, I think a good way to tackle the powers of the ninja, more specifically the core group of ninja that we've seen since the beginning of Ninjago, would be to take the storyline back to where it first began. Maybe all the way back to the original locations of the golden weapons during the pilot episodes. We know that there are locations out there that act as reservoirs for elemental powers, at least to some degree, and next year, 2026, the year that Season 4 is coming out, is also the 15th anniversary year for Ninjago. How cool would it be to see the storyline go back to where it all began, and bring the ninja back to these same locations where their golden weapons were previously held? Say, for example, maybe the Fire Temple actually has an elemental reservoir for the elemental power of fire. The Floating Ruins could have one for the elemental power of lightning. The Frozen Wasteland that housed the Shurikens of Ice could have one for, well, ice. And the Caves of Despair could have one for Earth. Then again, the Caves of Despair, last we saw of them, were kind of destroyed during the events of Ninjago Season 5, but Dragons Rising has introduced retcons in the past. Maybe the Caves of Despair were not completely obliterated, maybe just most of the location was. Maybe there is still an elemental reservoir out there somewhere in the caves that was either untouched following the events of Season 5, or maybe just added after the merge. That's another thing too, the idea of the merge possibly shifting these locations around, it would make the fetch quest all the more interesting and all the more exciting, because the Fire Temple might not be in the same spot that it was during the original Ninjago series. Same thing with any of the other locations mentioned. Like I said, the Caves of Despair being kind of destroyed is one of the biggest reasons why this idea probably wouldn't work, along with the idea of pretty much every other ninja not having a significant location. Like, where exactly exactly would Nia's elemental reservoir be? It's hard to say. What about Lloyd? I've theorized that maybe it could be the forest that he and Aaron ended up in following Season 3 Part 2, but again, what significance does that forest have? I do think it would be a lot more simplistic as well to just say that each source dragon has a reservoir out there instead of each elemental power. Or maybe there could be reservoirs that are just very basic for elemental powers that could apply to any of them. There are a lot of elemental powers out there. You know how many locations they would need to address in Season 4, even with just the ninja team alone, which again, most of their members are elemental. I think there are more simplistic ways to go about doing this storyline in Season 4 that do not involve all of these same locations that the ninja had to travel to locate their golden weapons. Like I said though, it would be a nice callback to classic Ninjago. The idea that these locations will double as elemental reservoirs. Ultimately though, I am excited to see how exactly the idea of the elemental reservoirs will be introduced in Dragon's Rising Season 4, because I think we can all agree that Season 4 is probably going to tackle this in some way, especially because Doc Wyatt said that they exist out there, and a Ninjago writer claiming that they exist right after a season ended with an ending that would totally set that up. All of that does point to the idea that they will be involved in Season 4. Whether or not, again, the golden weapon locations will matter, that remains to be seen. Like I said, I just like that idea. Leave all of your thoughts down below in the comments. How exactly would this work if you think it would work? If not, totally understandable. Leave all of your thoughts down below though. Where exactly do you think these elemental reservoirs will be? And do you think the former locations of the golden weapons could be a great spot for these to be? Leave all of your thoughts down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you guys did, feel free to like and subscribe. Do all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Peace.